The Xinhai Revolution, also known as the 1911 Revolution or the Chinese Revolution, was a revolution that overthrew the Qing dynasty, the last dynasty to rule China. The revolution changed the country's governance to democracy and established the Republic of China. The revolution was called Xinhai because it took place in 1911, which corresponds to the character Xinhai in the Chinese calendar's heavenly chart. The Xinhai Revolution was significant in Chinese history because it not only ended the 267-year rule of the Manchu-led Qing dynasty, but also ended China's 2,000-year absolute monarchy. The revolution was marked by several rebellions and uprisings. The turning point was the Wuchang Uprising on October 10, 1911, which resulted from the mishandling of the railway protection movement. The revolution ended with the abdication of Emperor Puyi, or Puyi, as Thais often hear him, the last emperor, on February 12, 1912, which marked the end of the Chinese Empire. Led by the Xinhai Revolution, Sun Yat-sen was a Democrat and revolutionary who was known as the father of the nation in the Republic of China and the pioneer of the Democratic Revolution in the People's Republic of China. As an important initiator of Chinese nationalism, Sun played an important role in sparking the overthrow of the Qing dynasty, which eventually turned into an anti-dynasty movement and led to the Xinhai Revolution, which transformed China into a republican democracy. Sun was the first provisional president when the Republic of China was established. Although Sun is considered one of the greatest leaders of modern China, his political life was full of ceaseless struggle and frequent exile. After the success of the revolution, he quickly lost power in the newly founded Republic of China and led a succession of revolutionary governments to challenge the warlords who controlled most of the country in 1912 and later co-founded the Kuomintang Party, of which he was the first party leader. Sun Yat-sen's main idea was the Three Peoples Doctrine. Sanmensuyi, which includes national independence, Minju, people's sovereignty, Minchuan, and the principle of living, Minqing, is popularly translated into English as socialism, which can be summarized as follows. 1. Nationalism, Minju, or the principle of national independence. Since the imperialist powers still threaten the cities and lands of China, Sun used the principle of resisting imperialism and colonialism as a subsection of the first principle. The second subsection is the principle of autonomy that should be given to the ethnic minorities within China. Sun believed that all ethnic groups in China should be equal and all were Chinese. China is made up of 5 major ethnic groups: the Han, the Manchus, the Mongols, the Tibetans, and the Uyghurs. Sun believed that the Qing dynasty at that time was ruled by the privileged Manchus, which was against the principle, so he had to overthrow the Qing dynasty and lower the Manchus to the same status as other ethnic groups. 2. Democracy, Minchuan, or the principle of the sovereignty of the people. The government in Sun's ideology must be a state that divides the organizations that exercise sovereign power into 3 branches, in addition to legislative power, executive power, and judicial power. According to Montesquieu's principles, Sun also emphasized the importance of elections, with the participation of the people. At the same time, it must be considered that the people will have the most power. The ownership of the sovereignty of the people can be expressed in 4 ways: the power to vote, the power to impeach, and the power to vote in a referendum. 3. The livelihood of the people, Minqing, or the principle of living, is a principle that Sun borrowed from socialism and communism. there is a division of land for use. These three ideas later became the basic principles that were adhered to in the Chinese Revolution for decades. While Dr. Sun was moving to create the Chinese Revolution, there were also movements from various groups in other areas of China. However, the other groups were only concentrated in that area. They did not think of a big plan that covered the whole country. More importantly, there was no clear basic principle of the revolution, such as Sun Yat-sen's Three People's Principles. Then in August 1905, the Chinese Revolution Alliance, an alliance of supporters, was officially announced. The Tongmenghui aimed to overthrow the Qing dynasty by adhering to the principles of the Three People's Principles. The center of the Tongmenghui was in Tokyo, Japan. Before the Tongmenghui occurred, the Chinese imperial court, which had declared war on Japan and the Western countries and allowed the Boxer Rebellion to create chaos in Beijing, was in a state of losing the war to the Allied powers of 8 countries. They had to sign a treaty called the Boxer Protocol to confirm that China agreed to pay a huge amount of war reparations. Emperor Guangxu was also trying to reform the country's governance and military. He sent people to study abroad to prepare to promulgate a constitution, but all of this ended because of Empress Dowager Cixi's obstruction. However, as Sun said about the hopelessness of the imperial system, the reforms that the Qing court tried to do did not change anything in the eyes of the people, and instead only trampled on and made the suffering worse. Due to the high level of public dissatisfaction with the Qing court, within a year, Tongmenghui gathered more than 10,000 members, opened a newspaper to agitate and spread the Three People's Doctrine, and most importantly, tried to continue to carry out revolutions until the Xinhai Revolution actually happened. In the spring of 1895, the Hong Kong-based Xinhai movement planned its first uprising in Guangzhou. The movement was led by Liu Haodong, who was inspired to design the flag used in the uprising, the blue sky and sun flag, later the national flag of the Republic of China. On October 26, 1895, the Xinhai movement, led by Yang Guan and Dr. Sun Yat-sen, led Jing Yuliang and Liu Haodong to Guangzhou to prepare to seize the city as a base. However, their plans were leaked to the Qing imperial court. The imperial court then began arresting the revolutionary activists, including Liu Haodong, who was later executed by beheading. The first attempt to seize Guangzhou ended in failure. Under pressure from the Qing imperial court, the British colonial government banned these activists from entering the territory for 5 years. Dr. Sun Yat-sen had to flee and carried out underground revolutionary movements and raised funds abroad, such as Japan, the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. On July 6, 1907, Su Shilin founded the Guanghui anti-Qing movement and led a riot in Anqing, Anhui Province, which became known as the Anqing Uprising. Su Shilin was at that time a police officer and department head of the Qing imperial court. He later decided to defect to the Tongmenghui revolutionary faction. He led the riot and assassinated the governor of Anhui Province, Ing Ming, a high-ranking official in the Qing imperial court. The uprising ended with Su Shilin's defeat after a 4-hour battle. Su Shilin and all of the rebels were arrested and executed by Ing Ming's guards. Su Shilin's relative, Qiu Jin, a feminist and revolutionary woman, joined the Tongmenghui. Qiu Jin published a monthly women's magazine called Women's Monthly Journal, supporting Dr. Sun Yat-sen's revolutionary policy to overthrow the Qing dynasty and also the first policy to support women's rights in China, making her the first feminist to pioneer equality for women's rights in China. When Su Xiling was brutally executed, she prepared to continue the revolutionary uprising, but she was arrested by the Qing imperial court and executed a few days later. The ruling class of the Qing dynasty felt that it was difficult to maintain the political system as it was, so they announced a provisional constitution in 1908. In the same year, Emperor Guangxi and Empress Dowager Cixi died. Under the chaotic political situation, Empress Dowager Cixi established the young Emperor Puyi as the ruler before his death. On April 27, 1911, Dr. Sun and Huang Xing led the masses to rise up in Guangzhou to revolt. The operation failed and many people died. The bodies of the 72 victims were later buried on Huanghua Hill, and in history they were known as the 72 Heroes of Huanghua Hill. In May 1911, the Qing court sold the railway rights to a major power, which caused the dynasty to be branded as tyrants who would treacherously sell their country. This caused dissatisfaction among the Chinese patriots, leading to resistance movements in 4 provinces: Hunan, Hubei, Sichuan, and Guangdong. The Qing court immediately led the army to suppress them. In the face of the unrelenting nationwide movement to reclaim the railway, a revolutionary group consisting entirely of members of the Tongming-Hui Association infiltrated the Xinjiang army in Hubei. 1/3 of the soldiers and lower-ranking officers were from these two groups, totaling 5,000 to 6,000 people. On October 9, while Sun Wu was making explosives at the Gongjin Hui group in the Russian concessionary city of Hankow, an explosion occurred. Sun Wu was injured and fled. The authorities inspected the scene and found documents, the official seal and flag of the Tongmen Revolutionary Movement. Rui Qing, the Qing imperial court official in Hubei and Hunan provinces, felt the situation was serious and immediately declared martial law in the entire city and arrested suspects and those who were involved in the revolutionary movement. Jiang Yu and Lu Fuji, the commanders-in-chief, knew that there was a problem in Hankow and the revolutionary plan might be exposed. In such a precarious situation, they resolutely decided to start the operation ahead of schedule. They fired a cannon at the Zhangyi Gate as a signal and secretly sent out a revolutionary announcement to the various camps of the Xinjiang army. That night, the revolutionary group headquarters was surrounded, Lu Fuji and Peng Chufan were arrested, and Jiang Yu escaped. The next morning on October 10, Lu Fuji, Peng Chufan, and many others were shot. The revolutionary group lacked a commander, so they connected themselves and raised the revolutionary flag resolutely. Song Bingquan, a revolutionary who was hiding in the 8th base, Camp 8 of the Xinjiang army in Wuchang, seized the opportunity to act promptly and summoned the leaders of the revolutionary movement to a meeting. The revolution was scheduled to start at 7 p.m. on the night of October 10, 1987. Song Bingquan led the revolutionary army to kill 9 officers who resisted and led 40 soldiers to occupy the weapons depot in Chuangtai. After capturing the weapons depot, he sent a letter to other revolutionary groups to gather in Chuangtai. Song Bingquan and Wu Xiaolin led the army to attack Zhengdu in Hubei and Hunan provinces. Rui Qing relied on the 3,000 soldiers who were guarding Zhengdu in the advantageous geographical position to resist resolutely. The revolutionary army divided into 3 lines and fiercely attacked from 3 sides. The artillery troops came to support. Zhengdu suffered heavy losses. Roy Ching ordered his men to break through the surrounding walls and fled to Hankow on warships. After a fierce battle for a night, the Revolutionary Army took control of Wuchang. From the night of the 11th to the early morning of the 12th, the Xinjun armies in Hankow and Hanyang gradually rose up and launched revolutions. The 3 counties in Wuhan were all occupied by the Revolutionary Army. The Wuchang Revolution was a victory. After the Wuchang Revolution, many provinces throughout China gradually declared themselves independent of the Qing imperial court. After the revolutionary group led by the Xinjun army captured Wuchang, the revolutionary group thought it would be appropriate to have a military leader with influence to control the situation initially. Therefore, it was agreed that Li Yuanhong should be promoted to the position of the chief general to protect Wuchang. Li Yuanhong was born in Hubei province into a well-to-do family. At the age of 14, he followed his father to trade in Zili province. At the age of 19, he was interested in the military, so he studied naval science. After graduating, he joined the Guangzhou warship. During the First Sino-Japanese War, 1894 to 1895, the Guangzhou warship was shot and sunk in the Yellow Sea by the Japanese Navy, but Li Yuanhong survived. He later received a scholarship to study military science in Japan. After graduating, he returned to use his knowledge to develop the Chinese Navy, which quickly progressed. He was later promoted to the position of military commander of Wuchang. Because of his great reputation, he was praised as the person who held the military power during the crucial moment of the change of government. At that time, Dr. Sun was on an important mission abroad to raise funds from overseas Chinese for the revolution. Dr. Sun learned of the revolution in Wuchang while taking a train in the United States. Although he was delighted, he was worried about the attitude of the great powers and did not return to China immediately. Dr. Sun had an important mission to negotiate with the great powers to gauge the attitude of the recognizing the Republic of China, especially England, which had reliable sources that England supported a northern warlord to become the president. That warlord was named Yuan Shikai. On October 27, 1911, the Qing imperial court, in a desperate situation, appointed Yuan Shikai as its representative with full authority to order the suppression of the rebellion. Yuan Shikai appointed Feng Guozhang as the commander of the First Army to invade the south, but at the same time, he secretly sent people to negotiate with the revolutionaries. The Northern Army used its superior military power to besiege Hankow and Hanyang and halted its troops for negotiations, but the revolutionaries rejected Yuan Shikai's offer. On November 1, 1911, Yuan Shikai's army defeated the revolutionaries with a barrage of artillery, forcing them to retreat. Yuan Shikai's army easily captured Hankow. After the military defeat, the revolutionaries called an emergency meeting and voted to appoint Li Yuanhong as the temporary commander-in-chief, with Wang Xing as his deputy, to help save the bad situation. On December 25, 1911, Dr. Sun returned to China and Shanghai to discuss the establishment of a republic. The meeting proposed that Dr. Sun temporarily assume the position of the new government leader as a field marshal. The meeting also mentioned the case of Yuan Shikai, the military power holder in Beijing, who clearly stated his intention to become the president. If he were to accept this position, he would cooperate with the Republican government. The result of the meeting was a preliminary resolution that Dr. Sun assumed the position of interim president. On January 1, 1912, Dr. Sun assumed the position of interim president in Nanjing. Li Yuanhong became vice president and concurrently held the position of military commander of Hubei province. They set up a headquarters in Wuchang and designated January 1st as the New Year's Day according to the solar system instead of the long-standing lunar system according to the old calendar. This marked the beginning of the legal Republican era under uncertain circumstances. On January 26, 1912, warlord Yuan Shirkai's confidant. A group of 47 people were collected to petition the emperor to abdicate in order to peacefully change the government. Under the unstable political situation, Yuan Shirkai still did not recognize the Nanjing government, and many major powers did not recognize it either, and showed their support for the warlord Yuan Shirkai's government more than. On February 12, 1912, Empress Dowager Longyu, the adoptive mother of Emperor Xiantong, Huai, officially announced the emperor's abdication, but on the condition that he would continue to reside in the Forbidden City and continue to hold the same title, which meant that the 268-year rule of the Qing dynasty had ended. One day after the emperor abdicated, Dr. Sun resigned as the provisional president and agreed to let Yuan Shirkai accept the position as requested. Sun Yat-sen, well aware of Yuan Shirkai's strong military, gave up the presidency to Yuan Shirkai. Later, Yuan Shirkai gradually eliminated the Tongmin group and the Kuomintang, including the announcement of a new constitution to increase his own power. Before 1916, he declared himself the emperor, causing the warlords who had previously carried out the Xinhai Revolution to rebel and not be subject to the Yuan Shirkai government. It became the warlord era where each warlord had his own power and forces to govern each area. Before Yuan Shirkai died of blood poisoning in 1916, the Xinhai Revolution era ended and entered the warlord era that caused troubles and caused a large number of Chinese people to emigrate in this era. In general, the Xinhai Revolution was a reaction to three main factors. 1. The decline of the Qing government in the previous period and the inability to reform and modernize China to face the challenges of foreign countries. The weakness caused China to lose the Opium War with England before and was increasingly influenced by the Western countries due to the weakness of the Qing government. 2. The decline and famine from the outside. In end of the Third Rebellion, the Han Chinese majority was dissatisfied with the ruling Manchu minority. Several underground Qing resistance groups, supported by Chinese revolutionaries in exile, attempted to overthrow the Qing dynasty. A brief civil war that ensued was ended by a political compromise between Yuan Shirkai, a former top military official of the Qing government, and Sun Yat-sen, leader of the Tongmin Hui Reunited Front. After the Chinese imperial court transferred power to the newly established republic, a provisional coalition government was established with the parliament. However, political power in the new national government in Beijing was soon monopolized by Yuan Shirkai, leading to decades of political division and warlordism, as well as several attempts to restore the empire. Most notably Yuan Shirkai's attempt to establish himself as emperor before his death, and the establishment of the state of Manchukuo by the Japanese military government, which elevated the former Emperor Puyi to the Manchukuo emperor and attempted to restore the Qing dynasty. The warlord era ended with the victory of Mao Zedong and the Communist Party in 1949. Today, both the Republic of China on Taiwan and the People's Republic of China on the mainland regard themselves as the successors of the Xinhai Revolution and still respect its ideals, including nationalism, republicanism, modernization, and national unity. However, the Xinhai Revolution may be considered a successful revolution, but it failed later, like the French Revolution, because in the end, both regimes were changed. Only the leaders of the power were changed to another group of leaders.